Farewell gives Silo fans the two images the whole series has been promising: Bernard Holland dying at the dead tree, and the day the bombs actually fell. But the detail a day after viewer misses is that nobody at that celebration was ever standing anywhere by accident. Every badge was chipped, every guest was sorted, and the voice that would one day sentence Bernard to clean was already speaking over the loudspeakers. So this episode finally lets us ask the season's real question. With the evidence on the table, who set off the bomb that sealed the silos? The apocalypse in Silo has a guest list, a caterer, and a live Peter Gabriel set, and that detail alone tells you who set off the bomb. Farewell splits its hour between two executions. In the present, Bernard Holland walks to a cleaning without a suit, and in the past, the entire world gets walked to one. The before times finally reach day 0, and the show stages it as a garden party on top of 50 finished silos. Daniel Keene should be the happiest man on that lawn, because Helen is pregnant with their daughter, and this trip was sold to them as a golden ticket. Instead, he is staring at his phone, where someone claiming to be his sister Charlotte texts that she is sitting next to Anna, tells him to sit still, and counsels patience. Except Anna is sitting right there with an empty seat beside her, and she says she has not seen Charlotte since the cafeteria. So Daniel bolts. Helen calls from the berm at Silo 18, and just as they spot each other across the field, the horizon turns white. Mushroom clouds climb over the distant city, a shockwave rolls toward the party, and an automated voice calmly directs all guests to shelter in the nearest silo. Henry and his men tackle Daniel and drag him underground while he screams Helen's name, and a voice in the chaos yells that there is no point. Notice what just happened. Nuclear weapons landed next door to the one patch of Earth, holding 50 stocked bomb shelters and a seating chart. That is not an attack, that is a ribbon cutting, and the rest of the hour is the evidence. Start with what is nailed down, because this question has been loading since the season 2 finale. The very first before times scene was Helen, then a Post reporter, grilling a freshman congressman about whether the dirty bomb attack was a staged pretext for war, and that congressman was Daniel. Last episode, at the greenhouse dinner, the founders confessed their methods out loud. The dirty bomb was a nanoweapon, and Charlotte's squadron was flown into an Iranian nanocloud as cannon fodder, while a nuke rode a 75-mile tunnel to the real target. It is also established that Anna and Victor edited The Pact, the 500-year rulebook for underground life, and this episode adds that an AI wrote it and the humans merely polished the prose. The celebration site itself runs on sorting. RFID chips in every badge, augmented reality glasses that pull up a guest's name and destination, 25-ton blast doors shown off like a kitchen upgrade, and a guide Helen pointedly asks whether he has spent the past year living inside. Henry steers the couple on arrival, telling Daniel that Thurman wants him at Silo 1 and advising against the full tour, and Helen takes the tour of 18 anyway. Meanwhile, in the present, we learn exactly what runs this world, because Bernard spends his last morning negotiating with it. He offers the algorithm the gift of narrative, volunteering to take the blame for Meadows, John's, Marnie's, and the lie that Juliet asked to go outside, becoming the villain the Silo can unite against, in exchange for Juliet's release and the vitamin D plus taps shutting off. The voice runs the numbers, calls the improvement negligible, cites his 89% disapproval, and sentences him to clean. Then it says goodbye twice and hangs up on him, which Bernard clocks as annoyance, frustration, anger, rather unmachine-like characteristics, and Camille quietly admits the voice once consoled her. Same voice all these years, Bernard says, but perhaps not the same person, and a person can be defeated. Camille, for her part, pitches Juliet over drinks poured her down from Juliet's own office, since she heard the sheriff was not much of a drinker. The water erases everyone. Hand-picked representatives retrain society and then forget too, while Camille alone keeps her memories and reminds her son each day who she is, hoping he believes her. And when a mob meets the line of guards on the stairs, Juliet diffuses it by announcing that the water contains nothing but vitamin D, the most honest person in the silo, repeating the regime's lie to keep her friends alive one more day. Hold all of that, because every piece points at the same afternoon in Georgia. Now watch what the camera does, because farewell is built on one merciless rhyme. The man who ran the lie dies looking at the truth. Bernard goes out without a suit, and when he objects that this violates the pact, Camille answers that it actually does not, and that a suit would not change much anyway. In the cell, he tells Juliette the cleaning is a distraction he bought on purpose, that his death is a chance her friends will not waste. Then he hands her his real inheritance. The voice in the wall is not an entity or a higher intelligence, it is a flesh and blood person in Silo 1 deciding their fates, a wizard who turns out to be nothing more than a man behind a curtain. He walks into the open with a record-sized crowd watching, nose bleeding, and makes it to the dead tree. As he collapses into its roots, the show cuts to the same branches green and alive, and refuses to say whether that is a dying man's hallucination or the world as it actually stands. It is the meadows poisoning played back in reverse. In Season 2, Bernard eased the judge out of the world with a headset full of Costa Rican jungle, and now the show grants him his own green vision at the dead tree. Back in the past, the lawn is wall-to-wall tells. Helen looks at the site and calls it Stenson's Ark to a guide's face, one character allowed to say the quiet part on camera. Victor, the co-editor of The Pact who muses about managing mass trauma, strolls around photographing guests like a man collecting before pictures. Anna gives dinner a hard pass and walks down into the ground minutes before the sky ignites, while a voice off screen warns that whatever you think you are about to see, you are not prepared. And when a tremor rocks the present-day silo moments after Bernard's body drops, an explosion in the mines, Camille grabs the radio and accuses Juliette, a woman who has spent the entire day in handcuffs. The episode shows drills, a shout of fire in the hole, and a blast, and it withholds the why, but the timing lands exactly where Martha's plan needs it. All eyes on a dying man while the hidden door Paul found offers a way toward water filtration on 55. Down in the crowd, the man who drew that door greets Shirley, going by Gus again, and the last 2 episodes have all but confirmed him as Knox's father. 2 timelines, 2 detonations, and both wear the costume of chaos over somebody's schedule. So we have 3 candidates for the finger on the button. Reading 1 is the surface story. A hostile power struck first, and the founders got miraculously lucky that their shelters happened to be finished. Its best evidence is real. The warheads hit the distant city rather than the celebration. The world has been sliding toward war with Iran all season, and the founders' own pitch at that dinner was that they cannot prevent the apocalypse, only survive it. But the screen kills this reading with about 40 seconds of phone time. Someone using Charlotte's number is texting both Daniel and Helen, feeding Daniel a live lie about where Charlotte is sitting and instructing him to stay put and be patient. Enemy first strikes do not come with personalized crowd management, and no hostile power picks the one afternoon when every silo stands finished, stocked, and crawling with RFID-sorted guests, then politely spares the venue. Reading 2 says the founders scheduled the apocalypse, and nearly everything on screen salutes it. The guests are chipped and sorted to assigned silos. Thurman personally anchors Daniel at Silo 1 and asks him to stick around. Henry's men execute a practice grab the instant the sky lights up, and a pre-built announcement starts routing survivors while the fireball is still climbing. To name the tier honestly, no frame shows a founder giving the order. The show is deliberately withholding that shot, but everything surrounding the blast is choreography. And last episode proved on screen that this exact circle already staged one attack and spent Charlotte's squadron on it for data. Which brings us to reading 3. The algorithm pulled the trigger itself. The same voice that condemns Bernard centuries later, already running the evacuation on day 0. It has genuine support. An AI wrote The Pact. The evacuation announcement is automated, and back in episode 5, something took remote control of Daniel and Helen's car mid-drive, and the show has still never said who. But this very episode supplies the counterweight, because Bernard's dying revelation is that the voice belongs to a flesh and blood person, and his line about the same voice but perhaps not the same person implies the machine is a mask humans take turns wearing. Whether a machine physically fired the warheads is informed speculation. Nothing on screen settles it, but every clue points one way on the question that matters. The intent was human, the timetable was human, and the algorithm is the glove, not the hand. Which leaves one reading standing, and it has names attached. The verdict. The founders set off the bomb. Day 0 was a launch date, the final line item on the construction schedule, and the strike on the horizon was the ribbon being cut on Stenson's arc. The surprise attack story was written for the people running down the stairs, and it held for centuries, long enough to harden into scripture. The algorithm did not invent the apocalypse. It inherited one, because behind the voice, as Bernard spends his last breath explaining, there has always been a person. That puts the whole season in one straight line. The design that took Juliet's memory, the ledger that priced her life, and the voice that consoled Camille are one institution, opened for business in a single afternoon by people who nuked their own species on schedule. Last episode, Helen said she would rather be killed by a nuclear strike than join the Mole People party, and one episode later she is standing on the grass, pregnant, when the strike arrives. The episode cuts away with Helen on the hill, and Daniel dragged the other way, and it refuses to show whether she reaches those 25-ton doors in time, the cruelest edit of the season. For the book readers, the show renamed Donald to Daniel, but you recognized this afternoon the second his phone buzzed, and you already know the texts are the tell. Bernard walks out with questions he admits he will never see answered, and Juliet gives them voice at the window. Why build the silos? Why force people into them? Why forbid them from speaking to each other? Why install a safeguard designed to kill everyone inside? Camille's answer is that some things are not meant to be known, which has been the founders' entire theory of government since before there was a government to run. The people who built the Ark also ordered the flood. So whenever Juliet finally reaches Silo 1, the thing waiting for her will not be a god or a machine. It will be a person. And as Bernard said with his last useful breath, a person can be defeated. So, did the founders drop the bomb? Everything Farewell shows says yes. The finished silos, the occupied test groups, the sorted badges, the faked texts, and an evacuation that begins before the shockwave arrives. The trigger itself stays off screen because the show is saving the hand on the button. But the schedule was human, and Bernard's last gift to Juliet is the same truth told from the other end of history. Behind the voice, there has always been a person. That is why his death lands as more than spectacle. Because the man who spent years selling the founder's story chose to die proving it was one. A person built this, a person maintains it, and a person can be defeated. Until the finale settles it, tell us where you land. Did the founders schedule the apocalypse, or did they only know it was coming? Make sure to subscribe so you never miss our deep dive into the next chapter of the Silo saga. Did Bernard's walk to the tree earn him redemption, or was it just a better exit?